Dreadbox Typhon, the effects video. We've covered the synth, we've covered the modulators, we've covered the filter, and now it's time for the effects. This is a lengthy, in-depth investigation of the wonderful effects section that has been built up by Sinevibes. It sounds great. Some of this is secret weapon shit, guys. So there's 3 pages. There's effects 1, which is lo-fi and distortion-based effects. Effects 2, which is delay-based effects, your choruses, your ensembles. And 3, which is space effects, like reverbs and delays. They sound great, they're modulatable, and we're going to go through every single one. We're going to try to show off how they work, some cool tricks, and it's an extensive video. So sit tight. I'm going to try to time everything out and post it into the section below. If you like this video, please hit share, please hit subscribe. And if you're really enjoying Dreadbox Typhon, I highly encourage you to pick it up. This is a wonderful synth. Thanks everyone. Let's get into it. Alright everyone, welcome to the Dreadbox Typhon FX video! That's right, so what we're doing here is we're going to go over effects on Dreadbox Typhon. Dreadbox Typhon has a digital section, so it's an analog synthesizer with really awesome digital section. We've already gone over modulation, we've already gone over filter. There's some stuff in the digital section that we've really covered. We've covered the VCF, how it has the FFM, which is filter frequency modulation. We've covered the high-pass filter in the FX1 slot. It has cutoff, it has resonance, it's a target that you can use to apply an envelope to it so you can have envelope-based modulation on it. You can apply any kind of modulation to it. But each one of these pages, and there's 3, has a lot more effects, and we're going to try to get into all of them right now. So I made a little beat. It's pretty cool. I'm going to make it real dry right now. Okay, all you're hearing right there is the analog stuff. So there's 3 pages. They divide up into distortion-based effects or saturations, things that affect the fidelity, lo-fi effects. Page number 2 are delay-based effects, but not delays. So here we're talking your choruses, your ensembles, flanger, phaser, pitch shifter. FX3 is your reverbs, sort of. So there's a large reverb, there's a small reverb, there's a cloud reverb, that's a grain cloud reverb. There's a delay, and then there's a ping pong delay as well. Then back to large reverb. All right, and that cloud reverb is a grain-based reverb. The cloud and the on effects 2 phaser, which is a barber pole phaser, were both brought into the mix via firmware update. This is reflective of the philosophy of Typhon, which is that it's a platform that they're going to keep on iterating on. They did some bug fixes, and that's cool, but they're also just adding features, and that's awesome. This is where they're going to add them. You're going to get more functionality in the effects. You're going to get more functionality in the modulators. You're going to get more functionality in the sequencers. This device has incredible effects that can really be used to tune everything, and they're all targetable. So the mix on every single one of them is targetable, as well as every single one of the parameters can be turned into a custom target for the modulator. Now, we went over how that works more in the last section. But we're going to go over how each one of the effects sounds right now. And we're going to show you a little bit about the modulation as well, because it can be very cool. In addition, all these effects parameters have a MIDI CC number associated with them, which means that if you use it inside of a DAW, if you use it inside of Octatrack, Akai Force, Deluge, anything that you use it inside of that has the ability to assign CC means you can automate these parameters as well. You can block them, so you can have them quickly change. You can step sequence them. It's completely implemented, and that's excellent. That also means that because this whole thing has so much MIDI implementation, you could really expect to see some Max for Live devices as editors coming out soon. Anyway, so I made a beat, made a sequence, and we're going to get into how these effects work and how they sound. So once again, let's hear that. Alright, it's a pretty basic patch I have. I have a little bit of filter envelope on it, not even all that much. I have a modulator hitting the wave a little bit, so there's a little bit of modulation happening there. That's, I think, on modulator 3. Yeah. Here, I'll crank that up. But I actually want that just to kind of salt and pepper this thing. Just a little seasoning. Okay, FX1, as I said, distortions. There's a bit crush. There's a hard clip. There's a fold back. And there's an S curve on here. Tri-clip as well. And shred. It just keeps going. These are really good. And I'm not going to even remotely be able to show you each one of these the best possible way, because they're so deep and so creative. And you have to basically do a custom patch for each, but I'm going to try to show you how they all sound. So the bit crush is not just really bit crush. It's really kind of like a digital lo-fi thing. So you have the ability to reduce the sample rate as well as add bit noise. So let's hear the sample rate piece first. I'm going to actually open up the cutoff because the aliasing is going to start really high. Here we go. Oops, I got to turn the mix up. Alright, since this is a bass patch I have going, it was kind of hard to hear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Because the way aliasing sample rate works is it starts to affect high frequencies first, but this patch wasn't putting through any high frequencies. Here we go. Now you can hear it. Okay, so that's the sample rate reduction. Alright, I'm taking that modulation off. I'm going to take it off. Next up is adding bit noise. So a bit crusher, similar to the sonic decimator. Sonic decimation is really when you reduce the sample rate and you create aliasing on purpose. Bit crushing is similar. It's when you take a source signal running at like 24 bits or whatever, and you start adding noise in that is akin to the noise that a lower bitrate signal adds in. So it sounds like this. Not too much effect until you start getting lower. And then it starts having a hard time holding fidelity, because what's happening is it's losing headroom, and that headroom is being made up with noise instead. Alright, bit all the way down. So the reason why it goes away right here is because at the lowest bit rate, you have no ability for any bass to make it through. It's totally squeezed. So because right here, the cutoff is, I don't know, 500 HZ. That's where that's happening. If I start to bring the bit rate back up, you'll start to hear it come back in. There it is. Alright, so these are the outer edges of the sound. So what we're going to do for this one, unlike sample rate, is we're going to actually pitch it down a bunch. And we're going to add some in for taste. Here, bringing some noise in up top. And you might notice that that noise is post-filter. So if there's any sound coming through, you're going to hear that noise. And the noise isn't affected by the filter unless the filter is below where that noise cuts it off. I.e., nothing is coming through at all that would get reduced by the bit crusher. There it is. And you can use both with each other to get a true lo-fi sound. Here is the hard clip. Okay, so that sounded really awesome. What we're going to do with it, though, is we're going to modulate it a little bit. Again, this is effects parameter 2, which is gain. That's what we're going to mess with here. Get real quiet, that's it losing some of it. Did you catch what happened there? I threw a declining sawtooth on it, and so that means that it had a hard start on the distortion, and then it leveled off. And it's running at an even 2 beats. So that's different because I have kind of a triple pattern set right here. So it's creating a little bit of a chop on some of them. That is pretty sweet. Okay, next up we're going to do the next one. So we're going to go from hard clip. Ooh, I got to take the modulation off. Remember, they're bipolar, so you got to go to 0, not kill the fader. All right, so we're going to go from hard clip now to fold back. This is going to take me a minute to do, okay? So first I'll show off fold back, but then for those of you who don't know what fold back distortion is, what it is it takes a waveform, right? So let's say you have a triangle wave, or, you know, whatever, sawtooth, whatever. But the top of it is the point. It takes a certain point and it says, okay, here's the threshold, right? Everything underneath this threshold is actually going to get reversed unto itself, which means my fingers up here are going to get folded in, right? So instead of a triangle like this, it's like this kind of. I mean, I can't really do it very well with my fingers, but you get what I'm saying? So this triangle, everything above this point instead goes down and then back up. It's fold back distortion, and the amount of gain you apply And the level of it is how much and how hard that happens. It's kind of like almost a compression. I'm turning the filter envelope up because I want to give a little bit of a spike, a little bit of a peak, because that'll be more fun to do. So now let's bring it in, but what I want to do later. So this was used really heavily by electronic styles in the 90s on kick drums. Foldback distortion is really well known because what it can do is it can keep, you can take a sine wave like an 808, throw it through foldback distortion, it'll still be able to boom the subs, but it has all these kind of nasty harmonics that come through that are really useful for early gabber, early techno, and like hardcore styles. So I'm going to try to create a drum using modulation. Yeah. Okay, so that should have illustrated fold back really well. Once again, we're going to go to initialization patch, because now we're going to go to, let's see, we've done bit crush, we've done hard clip, we've done fold back. It's now time for S curve. I'm going to go to amp envelope. Once again, I'm going to make it a little bit longer. I think I'm clipping. Unmixed, mixed all the way. You can even hear like a saturation or a pump going on. There's a real good chance that I leave this on all the time. And the reason why, if I'm not using one of the others, is because just putting it up a little bit adds a little bit of compression. This is also what I would use if I were trying to get acid style bass lines. Ready? So I started to turn up the resonance. I have a lot of envelope applied. Let's put some VCF on. You can hear my dogs in the background. Okay, still moving along. S-curve, tri-clip. This is clipping using triangle waves. Good, turn the resonance down. Okay, that's tri-clip. Moving on, this is shred. This is an overdrive. Cool. And we're back to Bit Crush. That is it for the overdrive section. That's effects 1. We're going to clear it out. We're going to find maybe something tasteful, and we're going to move on to the next section. We are going to get into effects 2. This covers delay-based effects, not delays, delay-based effects. So that's chorus, ensemble, flanger, phaser, shifter. Okay? So for that, we're going to take the sound that we have, which has a little bit of distortion on from the last one. And we're going to make it... Gonna take it to super soft. And now I'm gonna start applying the chorus to it. The chorus section, the delay section, so effects 2, has 5 parameters you can mess with. So effects 1 gave 2 of those parameters to a digital high pass filter, cutoff, and resonance. This has all 5. This one's mixed. This is a standard modulation target. Everything else on here you can do via custom target. So depth, speed, width, feedback. These are pretty standard chorus features, and it sounds really good. If you put a lot of feedback on it, it has that nice metallic edge. If you're listening in headphones, you should hear a stereo mix going on. Chorus is a stereo effect. So what you get with chorus is you take the mono signal from the Typhon's analog engine, it runs into distortion, then it runs into chorus where it gets split into stereo, and then that gets fed into FX3, which is like your reverbs. That's why there's stereo out. So in other words, if you're just using left out for a mono output on Typhon, you are missing a lot. Listen to this. I'm going to widen the stereo mix. That sounds awesome. It's a really good stereo mix for a chorus. We're going to move on. The ensemble effect on here is a lot like a unison effect on a hardware synth, or if you use software synths like Serum, this creates a number of voices. So there's one voice in the center, and it creates them to the left and the right using delay-based effects, and it varies the pitch and how far away those are from the center to the left or the right. And the idea, unlike a chorus, which does create a stereo sweep using two voices, what this does is it's supposed to create an effect of feeling like there's many of them. Sounds awesome, right? Feels like it adds a lot of harmonics up top, makes it a crisper sound, and it does widen the stereo field quite a bit. Again, if you want to do really modern contemporary bass sounds, this and the filter FM are really key on Typhon, and it can really get away with a lot. Next up, the flanger. Flanger is a pretty typical DJ-based effect. So what the flanger does is, so you take chorus, what you do with the chorus is you invert the polarity and run them against each other to get phase cancellations. Flanger, take one, take the other, just move them against each other. Get phase cancellations that way. It creates this ripping sound if you really have it set correctly, that it sounds like a little bit of a Doppler effect if you have it moving slow enough and there's enough feedback on. Let's see if we can find that. Okay, moving right along. The phaser. Okay, the phaser, what this does is it takes one copy, reverses the phase of it 180 degrees, puts them against each other, and then it starts to move that phase around. So you're literally rotating the phase in order to get this. So whereas the other ones, so chorus is you have one and then another, and they're in phase, or they're out of phase moving against each other. Flanger, in phase, moving against each other. Phaser, out of phase, and then rotating the phase against the other one, which is staying in phase. What it does is it creates phase cancellations in a third way. This was added with the firmware update, I think, in November. Pitch shifter. All right. So what this does is you have a left and right. It takes a delayed signal, another signal, copies the mono input into a left and right, and then you're able to pitch shift that. you're also able to dampen it. So while you're creating pitch shifted secondary lines, you're able to dampen it, and then there's a feedback line. So that feedback line sends it back into itself. Let's hear it. Alright, so if you turn the feedback line all the way up, it starts to... It doesn't quite self-oscillate, but it does some pretty cool freaky stuff. Left and right are both set to 9. These are pitches. I'm going to turn damp up. If you... Here, let's listen to the sweep of damp. It's really just a filter. Okay, so now we're going to play with left and right on here. I'm going to turn the feedback down quite a bit. Pretty cool. And we're back to chorus. That covers effects 2. Moving right along. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into effects 2. We're going to get to effects 3, and this is one of the killer features. But we're going to add a pinch of ensemble to this. Okay, so what I did was I wanted to leave a little bit of space between notes because we're about to do reverbs. So I set it up so that the filter envelope cuts as well as the amp time. Okay. There are several different reverbs in effects 3. Large reverb, small reverb, cloud, which is a grain reverb added with the firmware update, delay, and ping pong. Additionally, delay and ping pong, if you go into the menu, you go to sync options. Effects 3 has the ability to change the sync option from free run to BPM. Now, if you're playing some styles of music, you might be happy with free run, but if you're playing kind of locked loop, electronic, techno style music or anything that even has that kind of beat, you might want to go with BPM. So I'm setting that right now. But we're not there yet. Give me a bit. So now we're going to start adding some of the large reverb. It has pre-delay, size, feedback, damp, and mix. Pre-delay it's supposed to simulate the first wall. So the first wall that you'd hear the first reflections off of. And so that creates psychological, psychoacoustic realism to the delay. Size is the side of the room. Feedback is the amount of times that it comes back around, bounces back around. Damp is sort of a filter on it, and then mix is how much you're going to bring in to taste. All these are automatable, and that can create some really awesome sounds. Let's hear it. Going to create a big room. with a pinch. Good for fills. Here's the pre-delay. So adding the pre-delay in, what this will do, I'm going to put a generous amount of verb on there. I'm going to turn my beat down. Adding pre-delay again affects the first one. I have 0 on right now. So it on its own can sound a little bit disjointed because it sounds like a delay. But once you have it in mix with many other things, and so I'll bring back in the drum track, it adds a realism. Hear that? You can make that first wall really far away. So right now I have it set up so that there's a lot of it and it's pretty far out there. That's a special kind of effect. I wouldn't normally use that. In normal course of action, you're probably going to want something like 5 or 6. This is a good reverb. Putting it all the way out to 80 is a good effect. Making the difference there and understanding it is really important because really what you're talking about when you're talking about reverb is you're trying to put something into a space. Well, once you start to distort it like that, you're no longer trying to put it into a space, you're trying to get a special effect. That's creative. That is not, however, necessarily what you want out of a reverb, if you're just trying to get a reverb. You can modulate all these by doing custom targets. You also do the mix. We're going to go to Modulator 3. We're going to do Effects 3 mix. 1, 2. So Effects 3 is the mix. And I'm going to go to Square Wave on here now. I'm going to set this to be BPM as well. Now what should happen is it should turn on and off. Turning that all the way down. That's just an example of some of the creative things you could do. You could also automate that in your DAW or on a big sequencer like an track deluge. Okay, going back to 3. Small reverb. This is a small room. Same parameters, just a different tonal quality. Here's a trick. So if you're having a hard time with your mix, you find a lot of mud in it, take the damp and throw it all the way up. What that's doing is it's going to apply a filter to it. It's going to clean up some of the mud. But if you're like me, you're probably going to want to take that damp way down. Potentially creates some mud. Sounds awesome. Bigger room. Listen to the tails. Smaller room. Just a pinch and clean. Just a pinch, clean. Moving right along, the cloud verb. So this is a granular reverb. It's not really a reverb at all. It has a number of grains that you can select from -8 to +8. And you can tune them around and pick the size. Check it out. Feedback is how long it stays in the sequence and gets refed back in. Big. Tight. All right, that's the cloud verb. Now there are 2 delay lines on here. All right, the delay lines are set up to be BPM timed. This is just regular delay. It has a damp. Has a feedback. You can set them left, right, independently, and you can modulate both these as custom targets. Taking the beat out, showing you some of the outer reaches of this thing. Turn the mix all the way up. As you change the timing, what's in the feedback loop has to adjust, and it sounds awesome. And here's where you get your comb filter. You can do a comb filter that's in stereo. Now bring the mix down. Alright, and finally the ping pong delay again. Now you can't do left right on this because it's already doing left right. That's what ping pong does. Ping pong, right? So you don't need to be able to separately set that in order to get the ping pong delay. It's just an algorithm for delay. You can BPM or free run your time. We have it set to BPM. Feedback, damp, and mix are your parameters you can modify. You hear that? it's almost impossible to not just jam this thing. All right, that covers it. So you have all these wonderful effects. You have wonderful analog synth that's in front of those effects. You have an incredible price tag. I cannot recommend this synth enough. I hope you've learned something from these videos. I do have one more that I'm going to do on this, and that is the roundup of killer features. So I'm going to cover filter time, amp time, and the reverb and ensemble. But for now, I'm going to leave you with this moment of jam. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a long one. Thank you so much. If you like this video, hit share, hit subscribe, send it to your friends. Thanks all.